Welcome everyone to our industry update today. Thanks for joining us at the end of the month on the hottest day ever. Melissa will be giving you her update today. We ask that you mute your lines, use the chat feature as always, and this is being recorded, so we will send it out to you at the end, and we'll have it up on our website. And with that, I am going to pass this over to Melissa.
Hi everyone, John is at a conference today, so you are stuck with me, and it has been 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks lots of things have happened, some good, a lot bad, so I'm going to update you on everything that has happened. If you are, putting my John hat on, if you are a member of the press, we ask that you disconnect at this time. I'm happy to chat with you following the webinar, but this is a webinar just for PRLA participants. So with that, let's talk about federal, which I think is probably, again, one of the reasons that you're all here today, trying to muddle through the mess that has really turned into the Restaurant Revitalization Fund and the lack of funds in it. So we all knew a few weeks ago there was a lawsuit filed against the RRF, essentially saying that the decision to allocate the first 21 days just for minority, women, or veteran-owned businesses is illegal, and you can't apply the grant program in that way. A circuit court ruled and said that's correct, it is illegal. At the time, the RRF said, well, the 21 days is over, so it doesn't apply anymore. Then things got messy. And some of you on this call might have gotten caught up in the mess that turned out from that decision. What the RRF and the SBA ended up doing was, if you were approved to get funds, but those funds hadn't been given to you yet, you all of a sudden got a rejection letter. So we know of many businesses within the state of Pennsylvania that said that they were getting $1, $2, $3, $400,000. They were banking on that money. But because the money hadn't transferred to their bank yet, the SBA then sent them an email saying, now you're not getting any money. And a lot, so we not only have people that didn't get funding at all because the $28 billion was used up, but then we also had people that were supposed to get funds that didn't because of that lawsuit that occurred. So things are a bit of a mess. We have winners and losers. We have some people that did get their RRF, but most people didn't. And it's because we ran out of funds, or your funds were pulled back because you are a veteran, women, or minority-owned business. We are, and our priority within PRLA is to get $60 billion more put into that fund. The only solution, whether you didn't get the funds because you were a minority group, or you didn't get the funds because you just didn't get the application in before the 28 billion ran out, which really, if you didn't get in on the first day, you probably didn't get any funds. If you're one of those two, the only solution we have is more funding. There's no way that we can go back to the SBA and ask them to revisit. The 28.6 billion has been used up. So if you haven't heard anything, you're probably not getting any of the 28.6 billion. But the only solution we have is to get you more funds. There is legislation within Congress that we're trying to move that allocates that. Many of our congressional delegation have signed on, but a lot haven't. So if you are in a Republican district that is not Congressman Smucker, or there's another one I'm missing, your representative hasn't signed on as a co-sponsor to the refunding of RRF. So please reach out to them and let them know how important it is. We do have an action alert. I'm not sure, I think I have all my helpers are not on in terms of Steph and Ben, but we do have an action alert that you can send to your congressperson asking them to sign on. We will also be setting up meetings over the course of this summer, in-person meetings with our congressional delegation, with Senator Toomey, with Senator Casey, to push how important this is. Because as I said, the only solution we have now is to get more funds, and the farther we move from COVID, the less urgent Congress is going to feel about the situation. So we really have to keep pressure on them to get that $60 billion that you all need if you haven't received your RRF funding yet. Another item we're working on that's really important for all of my hotel friends that are on this call is the per diem issue. Some of you, if you're restaurants, this probably doesn't impact you as much, but every year the federal government sets the per diem rate, and it's based on kind of the average cost of hotels in the last year. Well, we all know that at this time last year, the rates were down significantly. No one was traveling. We were in the middle of COVID. And if we do not ensure that they use the 2019 numbers, the per diem rates for travel could go down 20 to 45%, which is a huge concern for all of the hotels, especially if you're hotels that house a lot of federal employees within your establishment. So one of our other huge action items that you have seen in our daily update is a push for legislation that would allow per diem rates to be set based on 2019 numbers, not 2020 numbers. So we're still working through at the federal level a lot of issues in terms of recovery and trying to protect you all as you kind of come out on the other side of the COVID crisis. Let's do the next slide. Let's go into the hot mess that's our state right now. So last week, the legislature did pass a budget. It was $40.8 billion. It was the largest budget that we've had in the history of Pennsylvania. They passed it quickly. They passed it with broad bipartisan support. And there were some good and not good things that were included in that budget. The not good thing was, once again, the legislature failed to see the value in tourism funding and the importance of tourism promotion. They did flat fund the tourism office at about $4 million, which is a joke compared to other states. So we are going to be working on within PRLA action items for the fall to address tourism, because we desperately need that funding to go to our destination marketing organizations, to go to the state tourism office, to bring people back to Pennsylvania. So the unfortunate part of the budget itself, as I said, is tourism funding was flat funded at $4 million. American Rescue Plan money. We had $7 billion to use, and only about $1 billion was put into the budget. So they spent that $1 billion on really just three buckets. One was education funding, an increase in education funding. Two was transportation, to put about a few $100 million into transportation projects. And three were funding for nursing homes and to increase some of their funding. At the end of the day, I think the legislature received no less than 500 letters from entities asking for funding. And they decided at the end of the day, they weren't going to give anybody much of anything. So they took about $6 billion of that $7 billion and put it into what they refer to as the rainy day fund. It's kind of funny that that fund exists, but it does. And the purpose of them putting $6 billion into it is in expectation that there could be a recession in a year or two, and they don't want to increase taxes when we're in the middle of a recession. So they're kind of saving it to use if they need it in the future. So of that $7 billion, only $1 billion was allocated. We are continuing to advocate for key funding issues that we still need. Just because it's in the rainy day fund doesn't mean they can't pull the funds out to use them for PRLA priorities. It was really just a timing issue, and it is something we're going to be looking at strongly in the fall in terms of getting more grant funding out to all of you, in terms of getting tourism taken care of, and of course, looking at our unemployment situation and what incentives can we do to encourage people to come back to work if it's not addressed with the September 4th conclusion of the unemployment benefit. The good thing in this budget package was the salary threshold that was, so these are for your full-time exempt employees, that was expected to increase and was slated to increase in October of this year to $40,500. So if you have a salaried employee, they needed to be above that to not get time and a half. So that was the salary threshold. And then it was going to increase again to $45,500 next year. And then it was going to increase with inflation every 3 years after that. This budget took that away. So we are now back in line with the federal government, with this federal salary threshold, which is about $35,000 and change. So we do not have that hanging over our heads anymore. That has been a huge concern for many of you. So now, as part of the budget package, they did pull that increase back, and we are back aligned with the federal government in terms of our salary threshold in Pennsylvania. Let's talk about House Bill 1154. The last few weeks have been hard for all of you, especially for Zach and I and the government affairs team as it pertains to House Bill 1154 and our liquor priorities going into the summer. As you all know, the underlying bill included a provision that would extend your mixed drinks to go permanently. It would make it permanent, so you wouldn't lose that ability. There were also language in there that preserved the outdoor seating. It allowed for off-premise catering permits to be unlimited until the end of next year. It eliminated the 5-hour limit for off-premise catered events till next year. It eliminated safekeeping fees if your license is in safekeeping until the end of next year. It really was a bill that contained almost all of our alcohol recovery provisions that we wanted to make sure stayed in place for all of you moving forward. In the Senate, language was put in that would add ready-to-drink canned cocktails to the bill. It's something that PRLA supports. It basically would take those canned cocktails that the state store sells now, give it to the beer wholesalers, and they would distribute it in restaurants, grocery stores, convenience stores, taverns would all be able to sell canned cocktails to go out the door, just like you can beer. And if you have a wine expanded permit, wine. It was a controversial language. PRLA very strongly asked them not to include that language because the governor said he would veto the bill if that canned cocktail language was included. The Senate decided to move forward with the bill, at which point in time PRLA said, well, this is the horse we're riding. So we did our best to try and get it through the House. And quite frankly, the House didn't have the votes because the canned cocktail language was in there. Last week, the House took out that provision and returned House Bill 1154 to a restaurant recovery bill, which is what we all wanted. It's what the restaurant industry needed. And we wanted to make sure you had to recover and sent it back to the Senate. We did a huge push, and thank you all who reached out to your senator last week in an effort to move the bill. The Senate Republicans decided that this was not a timely issue for them, that this was not an important issue at the time, and just decided not to move the bill. I can't explain the logic. If you read the news, you saw our reaction to it. We don't think there was any reason not to send a restaurant recovery bill to the governor. It was a bill he would sign. It was a bill we knew we had support for. But at the end of the day, Senate leadership decided that without the canned cocktail provision in there, it was not a bill they felt worth considering. We're not letting go of this, and we're not forgetting this. We did have some senators that spoke up and advocated for the bill to move, for all of you to be able to continue these things, but there were others that didn't. So it really was, I think, an awakening for many of us within PRLA to see that people who stood with the industry for so long decided not to at a time that was so crucial for them to do so. So the Senate didn't move the bill. The earliest they can consider the bill now is going to be September of this year. We're going to continue to push to pass it, but because the Senate decided not to move the bill, you now no longer can do your cocktails to go. So that is not permitted. So you can't seal up my margarita and my espresso martini and let me walk out the door with it anymore. And then you also are in certain ways not able to do outdoor seating anymore. So I want to explain how that the LSCB is trying to resolve that. And it's going to help some of you, and for some of you, it won't. If you had outdoor seating under the emergency provision that was in place before 2 weeks ago, and you apply for the permanent license, so the $220 fee to make your outdoor seating that you had during COVID permanent, you can continue to operate. So you're going to get a letter from the LCB saying you have operating authority moving forward to continue doing what you were doing. If you are one of those, and there's a lot of you, because only 1,800 restaurants in the state applied for a temporary extension. If you extended your premise and didn't apply for the emergency extension, because quite honestly, we were in the middle of a crisis and you knew you could do it, you might not have thought to do the temporary extension at the time, you cannot continue to operate. You have to wait until you're inspected. So you cannot apply for an area that you didn't get a temporary permit for. You cannot license a new area. I know many of you have, some of your townships are changing where you can license. So if you're saying, I went 2 blocks down to the left, but I can't license that anymore because that business came back, I want to go 2 blocks down to the right, you have to wait the 30 days before you can do that. So you cannot do that immediately. So that is not permitted. And then also, if you have a right of way, because let's say you're doing street seating and you have to have sidewalk space for people to walk down, so you can't license that, that is no longer permitted. House Bill 1154 would have addressed all of these things. Unfortunately, like I said, they decided not to move the bill. So those are some of the hurdles you have. But if you have a licensed area that you had temporary, you can apply to make it permanent, pay the fee, and continue to operate, unless you're one of those exceptions that I just went over. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have on that. We are hoping and planning to move the bill this fall to try and get this across the finish line for all of you. But at the end of the day, we know that these were important provisions you needed this summer. And that's as frustrating for us as I know it is for all of you. But we certainly are going to ask, demand, and make clear that this industry didn't appreciate being a political pawn for controversial items. And that's unfortunately what happened to us as it pertains to 1154. Next slide. So I did go over the LCB efforts, so kind of went over that. And like I said, with the legislature in recess, we're going to be pushing and meeting with many members of the legislature over the summer to continue to push our political priorities. We are also going to be focusing on, I'm going to do a soft sell here, and hopefully Hope or Eric can throw a link in the box. I think that what we saw this past week showed how important it is for us as an association to be politically active and support those who stood up for us when others didn't. And that involves our political action committee. So those are personal funds that you make to PRLA that we use to support candidates that support us. They can't be corporate funds, they are personal funds. But it's more important now than it ever was before for us to make sure we're using those funds for the good guys. And we found a lot more good guys over the past 2 weeks, and we found a few bad guys that we know aren't there for the industry like we thought. So I will ask for you to consider making that donation to the Political Action Committee. Like I said, it's personal dollars. If you can hit the $365 level, which is $1 a day, which I think is a bargain for all the work we're doing, you will be invited to a VIP reception at our fall meeting in November. So it will be our way to kind of thank you for making that investment and supporting our Political Action Committee. We're going to be doing a lot more information on this over the course of the summer, educating some of you that might not be as familiar with the Political Action Committee, what it does. But now more than ever, we need to start funding and building that up so we can use those funds in the future for candidates that truly have supported and stood up for the industry. Okay, so mitigation, yay! This could be the last time I have a mitigation slide, which is kind of exciting. As of Monday, the masking requirement in Pennsylvania is over. If you are not vaccinated, that is your decision, but you now no longer need to wear a mask if you are not vaccinated. So there's no longer a mask mandate for anybody in the state of Pennsylvania as it pertains to the governor and the state Department of Health. There are still areas that you need a mask, and as businesses, you can still require guests to wear masks if you want to. You can still have that as a standard in place if that's something that you want. And so, of course, hospitals, airports, there are still mask requirements in certain areas within the country as well. The issue we have now is that while the state is no longer requiring masks, the CDC and OSHA, which some of you follow under in terms of regulation, are still saying you need a mask if you're not vaccinated. So for your employees that are not vaccinated, if you are under any of those guidelines, they should still be wearing masks until the federal government lifts their mask mandate. So you no longer the enforcer of your guests or any of that, but if you do have unvaccinated employees, you could still be subject they could still be required to wear a mask under the federal guidance until that changes, which I had hoped it would be before now, but it looks like it could be in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. But generally in Pennsylvania, there is no mitigation. There's no mask requirement in place any longer. Where do we go from here? I think at this point, case counts are lower than they've ever been. We're back to normal. We certainly know it's going to take you all a lot longer to recover than the month or so that we've been back to normal. And we're certainly hoping and watching these variants that are popping up, which have been the bane of our existence, and ensuring that the vaccines can still protect against them. So our hope is that we're out of this in terms of mitigation. But if anything does change, we'll let you know. But with now the governor not having the authority under an emergency declaration to do this any longer, I think we're on the other side. We're out of the tunnel. But of course, we know it's going to take you many months to kind of recover from the hole that the mitigation has been put in, has done to all of you. And I think so. Local update. I do want to flag this for my friends in Philadelphia and some of my friends in other parts of the state. Philadelphia does have it's a plastic bag ban within the city that takes effect tomorrow. They're not enforcing it right away. But for the past few years, the state legislature would not let local bag bans or fees on paper bags or any of that to be in place. It said that the state had to do it. That ended as of today. So beginning tomorrow, if you are in a municipality that has banned plastic bags, regulated plastic bags, those laws will take effect. And in Philadelphia, that's one of those places that has done it. And also Pittsburgh is expected to pass legislation in the near future now that the state is no longer regulating it. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. These vary from place to place. Some places allow plastic bags, but they have to be a certain thickness or they have to be recyclable. Some places are saying you can have paper bags, but you need to charge a fee. So these are all items that you should keep an eye on. And of course, stay tuned to the daily update as we see these things kind of pop up around the state, because I expect we're going to see a lot more of that in the future. And generally, I mean, something to keep in mind, we are at the end of June, which is the end of the state's fiscal year. It's the end of many budgets across the state. So a lot of our city councils, our legislators are going on break for the summer to return in September. So we can all catch our breath, regroup, reprioritize, and come back ready to hit it hard in the fall. And I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Hope. And for my friends out west, for the Western chapter meeting next week in Pittsburgh, I get to go out there with Heidi. So I hope many of you attend that meeting in person, because I look forward to seeing you face to face and not through a camera.
Well, we wanted to highlight some of the events that are going to be going on this summer and fall. We have some golf outings coming up. Lehigh Valley golf outing is sold out. Lancaster will be having one at Fox Chase in August. Our state golf outing will be in September out west at Hickory Heights, and then Brandywine will also be having one in Downingtown. And one that's missing from there is Central Chapter on October 18th. We'll be having one at the Hershey Country Club. All of these golf outings support the Educational Foundation initiatives, the scholarships for students, and the HARP Relief Fund. So please take time to go out to our website, check it out. There are different ways of participating, donating things for the silent auction, participating as a golfer, tee sponsorships. And we are moving into in-person, as Melissa just stated, events with some Zoom meetings. So in July, we will have two, one in Western Chapter, and then a Zoom for Bucksmont. But then in August, we will have some legislative roundtables. So please take the time to check out these dates, register, come and speak to the legislators, because obviously they need to hear from us. The next slide. We will be back in July with Melissa on the 14th. We don't have any other webinars scheduled for July. The National Restaurant Association has one today about wage and hour considerations when you're reopening. And I wanted to highlight also the two state meetings that are coming up. We do have a PA Tourism Summit coming up in October 19th through the 21st. It'll be in Harrisburg. We have some great speakers coming to speak about tourism and some panelists that will be there. So please be sure to come to that. And then in November, we'll be in Pittsburgh for our annual conference and our leadership forum. We have our speakers that were scheduled for last year are coming back for this year. We will be having our awards gala on the 8th. So it's November 8th and 9th. So please be sure to come to that. If you can go to the next slide, Eric. We will be doing the Spirit of Hospitality Awards. So please go to our website if you have anybody that you would like to be recognized or nominate someone as doing exceptional work over the last year. Please send in the application. And in September, we want to highlight our industry for all the great food safety practices that we do. We are asking to have you submit your story, some pictures, some information so that we can put it together. And then in September, highlight everybody for the National Food Safety Month, just talking about all the great things that we're doing. So please check those both out on our website, and also our job board, which we will be launching our Level Up campaign. I believe it's starting next week. So please make sure to get your jobs up there. What we are doing is trying to direct all the individuals to our website, to this job board, to help you with the staffing crisis. So if you have the time, it is free to post. Please get your job up there. And we did have someone come and talk about the health insurance plans that are available. We have some information out on our website about that. And I think that's, oh, nope, training solutions. As always, our CertSafe classes are up and running to full capacity. They will be coming out to make sure that you are up to date with your certificates. Please don't think that COVID is a pass. They will be asking you, and they do want you to have your certificates up to date. So we have a full schedule out on our website. You can register straight through the calendar of events, half-day class, or you could just go for the exam. The options are available to you for multiple ways to take it. And then the CertSafe dining commitment, we did have someone on to talk about that last week. I think this is a great way to have awareness, brand awareness with your facility, to let people know that you are doing what needs to be done to keep them safe. And that would be it. I think we have a few questions.
You guys are taking it easy on me today. First question, is there any hope with Senator Scott Martin reconvening request, even an option for House Bill 1154? So for those of you that didn't see it in the news on Monday, going into yesterday, Senator Scott Martin, who is a senator from Lancaster, sent a letter to his leadership basically saying, we can reconvene virtually because they have the ability to convene virtually, which ends at the end of the day today. We can pass 1154, send it to the governor, and get it done. So he sent that letter at the end of the day. From what we're seeing, it sounds like Senate leadership decided that is not something they want to pursue. So once again, it sounds like they've decided that they don't want to reconvene to pass the bill. They could convene today. They could all get on Zoom and pass it, but this is the last day that they could do it virtually. Now, they could come in at any time over the summer if they wanted to and pass the bill. But I don't know if it's a lack of pressure from us, which I'd be shocked at because I know many of you have reached out. But at this point in time, they don't plan to come back until September. So all I can ask is that if this continues to be important to you, ask your senator, especially if it's one of the Republican senators, why they didn't move the bill and why they didn't think it was important to move the bill. Because that's, if they don't move the bill, they don't think it's important to do so. So there is a chance they could come back today. There is a chance they could come back next week or the week after. It would need to be in person, but that is a decision that leadership needs to make within the Senate. And as of right now, it looks like they haven't made a decision to do so. As of right now, they don't plan to return until September. You have a link for applying to make temporary outdoor permanent. You have to, it's not a link really that we can share because you have to do this on PLCB Plus. So you need to go on, and we can put a link to that on here, but you have to log into your PLCB Plus account and then click the drop-down menu to apply for permits to make your outdoor seating permanent. It is a one and done fee as far as I'm aware. $220, that's to cover the cost of them coming out to inspect it and make sure that you're following all the rules and regulations of the state law with the outdoor seating. So it does not need to be renewed each year, as far as I know, because you're making it permanent. It's now part of your licensed area that the LCB has access to. Yep. Hope put a link, thank you, Hope, to our action center regarding House Bill 1154. I think Zach is going to be updating that today to maybe reflect the change of the fact that we need them to consider it immediately, that they can't. They need to come back and reconvene session. And then the PLCV Plus is there as well, where you can go and file to make your outdoor seating permanent for that $220 fee. And I think you guys really are giving me a break today. Look, even Macy woke up at the end. Okay.
Well, we'll make sure to
Well,
include
hopefully
these
we
links.
have.
Oh, I was going to say.
I'm sorry, Hope.
I was going to say, I'll make sure to include these links too when Eric sends out the recording so that they have the how to donate to PAC, the actions, and then the PLCB Plus.
Thank you, Hope. All right, well, hopefully in about 2 weeks, I'm going to have exciting RRF replenishment updates and all types of good news moving forward. And also for those legislative roundtables that are happening in August in Central PA and Northwest, please make sure you sign up for those if you are in those areas. That's an opportunity for us to talk to our legislators about our disappointment with some of the decisions that have been made. So encourage you to sign up for those. And again, look forward to seeing you all in person at future chapter meetings. And yes, Denise, I do need a vacation.
I think you have one coming up. I think you have one coming up.
I'm
right?
working on it. I'm bundling all of the trips I haven't taken in 15 months for the next 2 months. So, all right, guys, have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.